Hey, in previous episode, Jeff answered my questions about traveling around 35 countries. In this episode, he is going to talk about marriage therapy. Keep watching. So, how long you have been a marriage therapist?
For 7 years.
Okay, long time. What made you to get into it?
Maybe just seeing some divorce in my family, and also I went and did some Christian volunteering in New York in 2005, and I remember a situation where I was sitting with this family they were peaceful. They were the mother, the father, the kids were all sitting in the living room, and they were happy, peaceful. We were talking about religion and spirituality, and it was a nice environment. And then downstairs from them, there was a couple who were screaming at each other, and it was really, really intense. And I remember just feeling really jarred, and it was very, they were very angry. And I saw the difference between what we were doing up here versus downstairs. And I think it was that moment that said I felt more joy trying to help people than any other job. So that was my experience that I think got me into saying, well, I want to do like family therapy or individuals and marriage and couples. Yeah.
Is there anything like pre-marriage therapy or counseling?
Yep, I do it all the time. Yeah, before, sometimes couples want to know how to work through some issues before they marry, or even some of them don't ever want to marry and they just want to work together generally. Yeah.
So you have been married
since 2012.
Okay.
So 7 years.
Okay. So is it your first marriage or something?
This is my first marriage.
Okay. So was there any bumps in your marriage? If you don't
absolutely
mean to like share it, maybe very personal.
Absolutely. Yep. The first year of marriage was the hardest, and the seventh year is absolutely the very, very, very best. Despite what people may think, it's not always a honeymoon phase for everybody who gets married. Sometimes that's the hardest, and quite often it's the hardest. You're learning how to communicate and to connect, and you're learning to get through stereotypes and preconceived ideas about what marriage was like that you learned from your community, and somehow you just clear this out to figure out what is good for both of you. And it took me and my wife a few years to get there, and then now seventh year it's just the very, very best. But the first year was the hardest, and we argued and fought the very most, and so the bumps in the road now, they're not catastrophic bumps. They're bumps that say, okay, we're just fighting.
We'll
get over it.
More conscious about it.
Yeah, we'll get over it. It's not catastrophic anymore. It used to be more catastrophic. You used to think, oh my gosh, we're fighting. Or are we ever going to be able to solve this? And yeah, it used to be really hard. So, yeah.
How do the couple know to be together or to be separated?
Say it one more time.
How do the couple know to be together or to get separated?
Yeah, I think that they know when it's time to get separated if they know they've been going through counseling and struggling for years and years and years. Maybe 10 years, and they're going, we've done counseling and therapy and just nothing's getting better. That sometimes they decide maybe we're just not supposed to be married or together, so they will divorce or separate. Other times people have done counseling and struggled in marriage for 25 years, and they just keep thinking we can get through this, and they keep wanting to work at it. I think when you decide, when one or both partners decides they don't want to try anymore, that's when it's time to be done. And oftentimes culture plays a big role, right, in marriage. So a lot of people don't want to separate or divorce because of fear of being ostracized by their church or by their community or by their family. So a lot of times they'll just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, almost like divorce isn't an option. So so those are a few of the experiences that I see when people are kind of deciding, should we stay together, should we not, and then oftentimes a couple just knows they love each other. They know they're connected deep down inside, but they just have all this surface stuff and they don't know how to sort through it, so they keep trying until it gets better, and they'll just a lot of times couples will just be really resilient and keep fighting.
So if someone cheats in marriage, is it repairable?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's but the way it's repairable is the offending partner has to truly have some humility. They really have to understand and get to the point of understanding how much that hurt their partner. Because if that partner is going to heal, there has to be a partner that's understanding that really hurt that other partner. And if that doesn't happen, it's an extreme injury. They call it an attachment injury. It's when you're attached to this partner and they betray you. It destroys your attachment, and so that can be repaired. But the partners have to. One is the first partner has to recognize how much that hurt, and the other part is the other partner then needs that same partner then also needs to be able to discuss what was happening for them. Why would they leave? Were they being selfish? Were they missing something in their relationship? Closeness? Were they? Do they have some type of emotional condition that creates higher possibility for impulsivity and sexual compulsion or something? I don't know. So it's just being able to understand how did a partner get to the point of an affair. And often what happens is there's just a lot of disconnection. For a long time, partners don't feel close, and then all of a sudden they meet somebody who makes them feel important. And affairs actually make a lot of sense. If you really think about it, affairs make a lot of sense because it's somebody feeling important, somebody feeling valued and needed. And often that's what's starving in their current relationship. So an affair, although extremely damaging and difficult, can actually even make a couple stronger. Because then they can realize that they've been disconnected for a long time, and it's time to really work on themselves, and now they can start to work on themselves. So yes, absolutely, it can be worked on, and it can actually help a relationship can even thrive after that. Yeah.
Love is enough to stay married, or is there anything else needed?
It depends on what your definition of love is. That's the biggest
misconception.
That's the thing you have to decide. What is love? And I'll just speak from my own reference. I think that you have feelings that accompany, but then there are many times you don't have feelings. If you're, that you don't have these googly, awesome, lovey-dovey feelings all the time. And I don't feel that all the time at all. And but when you have built a life together, that is resilience. That's a sustaining foundational love that is no longer. It's not run by emotion. It's run by you worked hard together. You've had fun. You've had tough times. You've had adventures, and I remember that, and that sustains me in difficult moments where I don't feel happy, in a moment, and I feel upset and we're fighting or something, where I say, but I am dedicated to you. I do love you. I mean, we're just having a fight. And so my definition of love might be, sure, some of those feelings, right? Those feelings of like, I really care about this person and something in your heart, but realistic. None of that weird, like obsession. I don't like the obsession stuff. Absolute, complete, utter obsession where you're screaming and crying all the time because you miss your person. I don't know. It seems a little extreme to me. So some of that emotion with a lot of dedication and adventure and stories, make stories together, and then create resiliency. When you fight and things get tough, just you work it out and you remember you've had this adventure together, and that's enough. I think you can get through anything when that happens. Anything, I think you know what I mean. But you can get through a lot when that happens, and I think that's enough. Yeah, I think that's a good way to have a good relationship.
How to keep this relationship alive?
You have to do stuff. You can't. you can't just work and come home and go to sleep and work. You can't. It's just not, and you can't just parent. You can't just be a full-time parent and do nothing together. You have to live a life that's important to you. And if you don't know what that looks like, start to be curious, start to think. Everybody's got something, whether they don't know it or not. It's something deep inside their mind that says, I would be really curious about what this thing would be like. I've always wanted to know what it'd be like to go do this or to do that. You have to entertain those. You have to look at those and say, yeah, and then you have to make time to go do them and write them down and set goals and the other thing too is to keep your marriage and your relationships alive. Plan ahead. You know, like if you want to do this trip, don't keep dreaming about it. Don't keep saying, oh yeah, we should really do this. Do it. The hardest part is just sitting down and saying, okay, we're going to sit down right now and we're going to actually plan that thing. And you sit down and you say, okay, when can we do it? And you put it on a calendar and then you buy an airline ticket. Like actually do the thing. Otherwise you just keep dreaming and you never actually do it. So I would say, so I don't sound confusing, I'm not saying that you have to sit and travel all the time. If it's a hobby or an interest or dancing or some kind of just a little hobby or some interest, go try it together. You know, go learn how to rock climb together. That's really fun. Or play a sport or do dancing or go painting. There's always something that you can do and you just have to do it, because that's like right now, if I didn't do that with my wife, what would our story be? We'd be 7 years into marriage kind of going, we've done nothing. We've not done anything to create like a strong relationship. But we knew what it's like for us to travel and to rely on each other when we travel, to be lonely when we're in a different place, and to love each other and to be close and to work through different cultures and issues and food and sickness and then you come home and you're like, cool, we did that. That was really fun for us. That was so important. And then when we bought a home and when we bought a house, we can get through any of the problems and challenges of a house because we've gone on adventures together. We've done things, and we know that. We both know that at the same time. So yeah, gotta do stuff. You can't just work. You just can't.
So what was the common complaint when a couple come to you?
The most common thing is something they call like a cycle or like a tango, which is maybe the woman says like, I always try to ask him to spend time with me and he gets mad at me and he pushes me away and says, stop, you know, don't you know I'm working so hard for us? Why do you always want more? And then when he does that, then she feels really bad. She doesn't feel important enough and loved, and then she withholds love, and he doesn't feel loved, and it's usually kind of just a disconnection. That they want to be closer, they want to be more connected, they want to do more together, and parenting and life and everything's gotten in the way. So you see that manifest through like a cycle that they go through, a cycle of a disconnection. And I see that disconnection even just in everyday things, like they just argue. Oh, you're not grateful, you're not happy enough, I've never been good enough for me, you always mistreat me, you're never happy, everything I do, you're never happy enough. Just like something that's disconnecting. And then we try to find out, well, what's really creating so much disconnection? And then we try to go a little bit deeper into that. But yeah, disconnection, just not enough time, not enough quality closeness.
So what do you think about dating, like a dating app, a dating website like Tinder or something?
I've seen it work for a lot of people. Yeah, I've seen it work for a lot of people. So everybody has their preferences. Some people like to date in person. Some people like the website. And then yeah, I've seen it work for a lot of people. And then I've also seen a lot of people hate it because it feels inauthentic and staged, and they don't really know who they're going to see, and just depends on different perspective.
So in the US and other countries, I have seen they do love marriage and they meet before marriage. In India, is arranged marriage system is still going on. Which system you think is better?
Oh, good question. I know that the divorce rate is a lot lower in India.
Compared to US and
yeah. And so I would just say, because I've never known what that would feel like, that I have my point of view is very American. My point of view is that I personally would want to be able to choose who I'm with and see the feeling that I have, and see what kind of attraction that I may have for them. I think that plays a role in a relationship, and so I just like to know that I can choose for myself completely.